All right, good afternoon, everyone. It's 4:30 and we'll begin council. I've just got a few announcements to make before we get started. First, I'd like to announce Sean Wallace, our new Economic Development Officer that is with us with lots of experience and history behind him, so pressure's on. We'll give you a day to get started. But no, seriously, I'm really excited for you, Sean, and I know you're going to do great things. So welcome. As well, I'd like to let everybody know the library youth area at the library is now up and running. They're still working on some things, but they're going to have a launch date in Easter break. So it would be great if a bunch of youth got out and enjoyed the youth center there. Also, there's going to be a job fair April 11th at the BCF from 4 to 7. And this is really important because they're going to combine it with volunteers. So if you have a volunteer organization, you can set up a booth there free. And that way you can, while people are coming out on the job fair, you might be able to gather some volunteers. So if you're interested in that, please email admin@traveldrumheller.com. And as well, I'm big on cleanups. So today, starting today till April 20th, I've got a 2020 challenge. I'm asking everybody, businesses, residents, everybody for 20 minutes a day to go out and collect garbage. So it's a 2020 challenge. I'm really, really appreciate everybody's help. So if you're out walking, enjoying the weather, just grab a little bag with you and let's clean up our community. So anybody else got any announcements you want? All right, so I'm just going to read proclamation as National Volunteer Week. Whereas the volunteer spirit that helped to build the town of Drumheller is alive and strong today. And whereas volunteers are young, old, families, workers, retirees, men and women of all ages and backgrounds. Whereas the collective result of the work done by our town volunteers is that Drumheller is a more desirable place to live. Whereas the entire community benefits from the valuable contributions that our volunteers make. Therefore, I, Mayor Heather Kohlberg, hereby proclaim April 7th to 13th, National Volunteer Week, and urge my fellow citizens to recognize the crucial role played by volunteers in our community. And I realize this starts April 7th, but because we have the 2020 challenge starting today, I thought I would do it this week and next week. So thank you all in advance for all the help that you're doing for our community. So could I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Tom, seconder, Jay. Any comments? All in favor? Carried. Could I get a motion to adopt the regular council minute meeting of March 18th? Lisa, Tony, comments? All in favor? Carried. Now I will move down to delegations, and I'd like to first, we'll do that after. I'm going to start with introducing Vance, the Badlands Amphitheater activities, and he's going to give us an update. So welcome, Vance.
Yeah, there we go. The talking face. That's what you're calling me now, eh? I should be able to sign along the front. Talking faces, sit here. Badlands Amphitheater, a lot of changes, a lot of things happening. New mission statement. Badlands Amphitheater creates community through performance events, including its annual portrayal of the life of Jesus, increases awareness and skill in the arts, and encourages tourism by creating significant cultural attractions. Some big corners being turned there. Core values are celebration, lifting up things that we think are valuable and beautiful and should be seen. Creation, in other words, looking after our valley, picking up our garbage, and also the creative abilities of the people we have working with us, and community. So we are definitely taking that head on and saying we are part of this, we are here, and we're not going away, and we're going to be part of this community, and we're going to do our best to be supportive and involved and engaged with what's going on around us. Harvard Business Review recently put out an article on the Stratford Festival, which almost died some years ago. That's out east as well, you know, the big festival there. And they said to have a transformational effect in the world of tomorrow, we must ourselves embrace fundamental change while preserving the excellence of the past. We must rethink what we do, not only transforming our art, but also transforming the experience we offer our patrons and how we interact with the rest of the world. So we're in a transformational phase. Last year we called 2018 a year of innovation, and it was. It was the biggest thing we'd ever pulled off, and that was pretty tough on the staff coming out of that one. We were barely walking by the time we finished. But it was the 25th anniversary of the Badlands Passion Play, and we formatted that into a musical. It is now a full-on musical. And it's going to be very interesting to see the public response to that. Totally written, all original music, 25 songs, original composition, all Albertans that have put this together. It's quite an amazing thing to be part of. We did our first opera in the Badlands performance last year. We did the sold-out Canadian Icons. We did that sound and light show. Yeah, woo. We started the amphitheater seating renovations. We had some new grants, new key donors we were working with. We won the 2017 Marketing Excellence Award from Travel Alberta, and we had 13,000 in attendance at the Passion Play and a record 20,400 at the AMP itself for that season. So it was a big year, and we learned a lot through doing that year and things that we have to do. The production has grown incrementally year by year. The Passion Play production in and of itself now takes that huge cast. It takes 5 professional directors, 6 people in the costume department, 4 in scenic arts, a conductor, and 13 paid musicians in the new band shell, which is being renovated, and 12 professional and semi-pro actors as well who play leading roles and singing roles, a 4-member sound team, 5-member management or stage management team, and then of course the admin team all working together behind all that. So you put all of that together, and the budget for that this year tops over $500,000 to pull that off. And that's because it's just getting bigger and we think better. In fact, we want to become the definitive musical for a new generation of the life of Christ. So Jesus Christ Superstar, yeah, you're okay, but you're fading off. So we're taking your place. But anyways, we've got some high goals there. And then, of course, when you talk about $500,000, that's not admin costs, that's not site costs, that's not fighting bentonite, that's not all the rest of the stuff that lovely goes on every day that we have to do. Anita Gaffney is the new ED of Stratford Festival, and she said a really funny thing. Actually, not funny. She meant it when she said it, and it's worked out well for them. The time for transformation is upon us. We lack only the financial means to accomplish it. And it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but it's true. It's way better to have really good ideas and good people who are committed to doing good things and then say, okay, let's find the money to support this, versus going the other way and we got a lot of money, oh well, let's just kind of throw it around and not really have any goals and things you're going for. So 2019 is what we're calling a year of stability, because we need to now pull things together from last year and do some work on that. And in the year of stability, we're going to do find, fix, and fund. Those are our 3 things we're aiming for. Find is the staff, and we're now almost fully staffed for this coming year. Fix is everything from infrastructure, policy across the board, re-examine it, look at it. And then a fund is the big one, and we're going after the grants, and we're doing all the things we can do. We will increase the scope and scale of our annual Passion Play production. We'll improve our on-site staff facilities, and we're doing that. We have our best crew team that we've ever had from MSU working with us. Major donor development and fundraising, 3-year programming plan, and we're really working on our integrated communications plan. You just got to do that these days. You cannot leave that to chance. You've got to be in there at all times, monitoring, watching. We are encouraging Drumheller to get that Go Drumheller Facebook page going. It's good to have a community page where people can kind of weigh in and the community can, but you got to have one solid, well-moderated Facebook page that all the positive stuff can be posted to. And when the negative pops up, we have someone sits on our Facebook page all the time. And if any stuff starts coming in that's whiny, snivelly, whatever, boom, gone. Because that's not the purpose of that. The purpose of that is frontward face. And that's what people look at when they're thinking of moving to a town. They look for the go whatever, go Prince George, go whatever. Look at that page and come involved. And we want to be integrated into that from our own communications as well and say, here's the great stuff that's happening. Yeah, well, we'll deal with the other stuff somewhere else, but let's have that together. And then, of course, building new community partnerships. And we've got some great stuff going with Morgan Jane Children's Foundation, and we've done some other good ways to just reach out and be part so that as people come into the Badlands Amp, everybody benefits. And we grow the thing together, and we do some good stuff. 2019, we're having our golf tournament. It is now called the Daryl Jantz Badland Classic. And Daryl Jantz is looking to bring us some high-powered hockey players, and we've named it after him. He's been with us for 24. This will be the 25th annual golf classic. So we're not going to let that die. We're going to keep us, because we're part of the community. So we want to encourage that as well, and the golf course and everything else, and do our part there. Passion Play musical version will go in July. Opera in the Badlands, we'll just wait and see. We're having some trouble getting a symphony. Really hard to do an opera without a symphony. Found that out. They don't sync to tracks. I don't know why. But anyways, Canadian Icons, Jan Arden, August 10th. And then there's another one that I was going to kind of tell you what it was, but August 24th. But then I noticed there's a camera sitting there across from me, and that means that this is public. And if I go and announce before it's supposed to be announced, I get in trouble. So you'll just have to watch our Facebook page, because it will be announced probably in the next 2 or 3 days. Younger audience, really excited about it. I think it's going to be really cool to have this group come in and be part of what we're doing here. We're going to try to bring back Blues and Barbecue in the Badlands in September. That was a good event. And then we are going to looking at the family movie night, of course. We have a partnership inked, and all we got to do is, like we said, time for transformation. We only lack the financial means to accomplish it. Global Fest wants to work with us to put on a fireworks kind of evening, night, whatever that morphs into. We've had it on the books for a year, but we have to find that key donor, because it's not something you just go out and buy off the rack at the gas station. They're a little bit more money than that. So we're looking at that, and we're also looking at our music night fundraiser in the winter sometimes, and that we go to the BCF with and try to be part, get some cool ideas there. So that's us in a nutshell, all the nuts over there doing their thing. It's the artistic people. Okay, let's admit it. But yeah, it's been a really fascinating, growing year. Great board, very forward thinking, a lot of good things happening, and looking forward to the future.
Wonderful presentation, Vance.
Well, thank you.
Questions? Well, I have one. When is the golf tournament?
The golf tournament, ours is June 14.
Good.
I know.
So
I
no
know.
conflict
Good.
with the...
No conflict. Our only
Celebration of
conflict, and we
excellence.
actually tried to move it, is Tom Zariski is gone, which I think is a travesty, because he's been with us, not quite as long as Daryl Jantz, but certainly put in a lot of work in that. But unfortunately, he's got to go to Japan and won't step away from it. So we got to stick with
You
it.
can still do all the work before.
Yeah, well, that's what we're hoping on, right up to the last
And is
minute.
it on the community calendar?
I believe it is. I
Well,
think we
please
passed
make
it
sure,
on.
because
Yeah.
that's where a
Yeah.
bit of the mix-up
Yeah.
got last year.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
let's get it on there. Okay, anybody else? Lisa?
Just a comment. I'm blown away year after year as to how your organization is thinking outside the box. And it is just fantastic to see some of the events and musicians that you're bringing to this valley. So give you guys a round of applause,
thank you.
because it is fantastic.
Yep. Well, I think it's very appropriate that, in this, I'm here, volunteer week, everybody knows. Everywhere across the province, organizations are struggling with getting their volunteers, and yet here we are, and we're still getting them out. They're still engaged, and it's, a relatively small location to pull that many people out. And we were scared going into those concerts. It takes a lot of people to run those. Will they come out every couple weeks during the summer to be part? And they keep coming out and supporting us. So without that, we couldn't survive. There's
No
just no
doubt.
way.
Yeah, gotta love those volunteers. Well,
Yep.
I can see with Jan Arden coming up, I'm sure you probably got a wait list for volunteers.
Yeah. That's a good way to get into the concert, because it's basically, we can hold 2,400. We're at 22 already. So we're coming out to the last bits.
So if somebody wants to volunteer for your organization, who do they reach out to?
Volunteer at badlandsamp.com.
Perfect.
Everything now is moved over to badlandsamp.com. So it's just volunteers at badlandsamp.com, and they'll put you up. There will be a website piece going up with that, because some of that is changing. We're just got a lot of volunteers now, how to fit them in where they should be.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is.
Tom?
Yeah, I know 2 or 3 years ago, you kind of worked out that the Passion Play itself brought in, I think you estimated about $1.5 million
Yes.
into the valley. Now with the Badlands Amp and the other things going on, have you figured out what an estimate might have been, like for last year?
For last year, we never even condensed those numbers. We have all the questionnaires and we ask them, where do you spend? What do you go? What do you see when you're here? I haven't had the time to even condense that down, but it's got to be hitting, when you go from the 12,000 and now going on to 20,000, you've got to be in the $2.5 million range easily for what people are spending when they come. Because the concerts, a lot of them are spending and staying over as well. And everything just gets totally filled and booked. So it's great.
Anybody else? Lisa or Christine?
Thanks for coming. I know you guys probably don't need anything else to do, but how are you guys making along with those trails and the saving the old benches for that?
The bench project, in fact, I was just with Culture and Tourism today. Project got backed up because bentonite is more insidious than we thought. So we've got to really do some work. So a lot of that stuff that came out had to go back in for last season just to make it through. So now we're reassessing that. There is some very cool possibilities there for trails. Like there really is. I walk them. Actually, I wanted one of those big fat tire bikes from Costco. If anybody has one they want to give away, because I want to ride around a bit more. But there's just some really neat things to do out in that area that relate to trails. We have had the trail and the trailhead area flown over with a drone, so we know where it goes and how it goes, but it requires a partnership with landowners up at the top, and we haven't got that together yet. So, but when it comes, that would be a very nice loop to do and come back down again. I'll show you the flyover sometime. It's pretty cool.
All right, anybody else? And I do love that Go Drumheller Facebook page. Yeah, maybe there's something we can do with the town.
Well,
and-
yeah, I think all of us together, that's what I've really learned, because I've hired somebody now who teaches at the university in Kamloops as my integrated communications person. And I'm absolutely amazed. And when they say, you do this, this, and this, don't do that, and they market test it and they do benchmarks and then they figure it out, and all of a sudden they turn it loose and I go, boom. You know, I sell 300 or 400 tickets and I go, it seems like voodoo sometimes. Like, ooh, how do they do that stuff? But it's very true that you need to keep that all together and centered to where you are presenting a really positive face out there.
Perfect. Well, we'll leave that one with administration to see
You bet.
what we can get help there. So I would just like to let you all know that I'm on the Canadian Badlands Committee, and we had our AGM last week, and there's a Cindy Amos Tourism Championship Award, and I would like to present it to Vance. Vance won the award for the whole Canadian Badlands. So please come forward.
How do you waste a jacket like that? Not getting in a picture.
My staff wrote the thing and it made me feel like I could walk on water. I know, guys. All right, I'm out of here. It's April Fool's, which means it's my mother-in-law.
Thanks again, Vance. Okay, let's move on to 6.1.1, and Daryl, it's you take over.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the first two bylaws, we'll have Greg just go through them again, just to kind of reiterate what we're asking for.
Thank you. The new municipal emergency management bylaw is a requirement. There is a revision that had to take place to keep us more in line with revisions made at a provincial level. the province has now passed a local emergency management regulation, which is not enforced until January of next year. But we are using it as kind of a guiding spirit over the new work that I am doing on the emergency management plan. Most of the changes that were required to our previous bylaw 11.11 were to do with the under section 12. I think I mentioned this before. The responsibilities of the Director of Emergency Management, which is the CAO, required clear enunciation and a clear layout, basically, of his authorities. Our old bylaw, we reviewed it with our field officers, and it was not up to date, and we needed basically to be tuned in and updated and made clear. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We did correct some of the typos previously in the list under section 8 of the new bylaw. Mr.
Can I get a motion for second reading? Jay?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move second reading of bylaw 01.19.
Seconder Lisa, comments? All in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion for third reading? Tony? Tom? Comments? Tom?
Yeah, could you just explain again the communication plan for council? So because council is not involved in the emergency management agency, how are we going to communicate with council again?
Daryl?
Well,
Was
no,
it through the mayor? Was it through communications officer? I can't remember.
there is a committee, Mr. Zarisky, and the committee at this point, sitting on the committee, I beg your pardon, is Mrs. Kohlberg, Mr. Makowecki, and Mr. Garbett. We have had a meeting approximately 5 weeks ago, and we will be having another one here in the near future, just so I can update them on measures that we've taken, progress on the emergency plan, present measures we've taken for flood mitigation in the event something sudden and unforeseen, cooperation with the province. So those members of council will be, and I'll be happy to update council at any point.
Oh, and during an event, I think is what Councillor Zaruski is asking. So, so there's a liaison officer that is basically the liaison between the emergency EOC area
Yep.
and council. So that person's in the room to hear and be part of the discussion with the EOC, and then communicates all of that back to council, and then takes the concerns from council and brings it through to the EOC. So.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor of third reading? Carried. 6.1.2.
Thank you, Ms. Kohlberg. The public behavior bylaw 02.19 is a new bylaw drawing upon authorities previously listed in Community Standards Bylaw 1610, adding in Section 3 on cannabis consumption, other section previously covered but further enunciated here, Section 309, spitting, urinating, and other activities in public. Many municipalities now have enacted such bylaws. Most of this activity is covered variously in other bylaws. But this one, basically, we can put it all into one, and it'll be clear and easy and for enforcement purposes. And to keep, it has a component of good behavior, as it says, but certain expected levels of deportment of the public that are expected, but now are listed enunciated in a bylaw.
Okay, can I get a motion? Tom?
Yeah, I move second reading, bylaw 02.19.
Seconder Lisa, comments? Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to say thanks again, Greg. I think this is a a good step, given the measures that were taken out of the community standards bylaw when it was cleaned up recently. And in particular, I know that this, hopefully, while it won't have to be utilized in the future, allows bylaw the authority to take care of some what could be minor infractions that become major infractions if not easily or not quickly acted upon. I know that the business community downtown in particular is pleased with the loitering provisions, so thanks. I think it's a good document.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor of second reading? Carried. Can I get a motion for third reading? Jay, Fred, comments? All in favor? Carried. 6.1.3.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, bylaw 05.19 is a supplemental assessment for improvements within the town of Drumheller. So basically, this is a something that happens partway through the year, or if there's some improvements done. So a good example would be if there was an addition put on your residential property partway through the year. This is a way to allow for a supplemental tax assessment, or conversely, if you've built a house on a vacant piece of land, or a commercial property on a vacant piece of land, and originally it was assessed as vacant land, this is the supplemental assessment allows for additional taxes for that prorated portion of the year that the building was occupied.
Can I get a motion? Tom?
Yeah, I move second reading of bylaw 05.19.
Seconder? Lisa? Comments? Jay?
Forgive me, just to refresh my memory, Your Worship. Daryl, this is an annual housekeeping bylaw, right?
Correct, it is.
Thank
Yes,
you.
it is.
Tom?
So why? Why is it an annual thing that we have to do? Why isn't this policy? Why isn't this? Is that MGA says that, or?
Barb?
Yes, it's the MGA. Yeah. The MGA, the very first paragraph in there talks about it must be part of every tax year. So just as we pass a tax bylaw, we have to pass this as well. So
Anybody else? All in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion for third reading? Jay? Christine? Comments? All in favor? Carried. 6.1.4.
right, bylaw 07.19. This is a bylaw for the provision of unpaid taxes, the imposition of penalties. So we made changes to this bylaw based on some discussion we did last year. So point 3, point 4, and point 5 on the bylaws are new or modified. So basically, if what we're asking for again is that the money is in possession on August 31st. However, if your payment's been made online and or through at your banking institution, if it shows it's been made on August 31st, then there's no penalty on that, provided it was still received in a reasonable amount of time. Point 4 is around hospitalization of a property owner in the last 10 days of August. If they provide evidence of that hospitalization, there's no late fees on there. And then point 5 is around dealing with an estate if death of a person before in the month of August. So
Motion, Lisa?
Make a motion for second reading on bylaw 7.19.
Seconder, Tom? Comments? Lisa?
I can't reiterate it enough. I am so glad to see the changes that are being made to this bylaw, especially in regards to digital payments. I have a feeling this will be used widely, as a lot of people do tend to wait to make their payments to the last minute, but it's great to see that we've given them leeway so they're not being fined or penalized in their banking measures. So very nice to see. Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, I'd also like to echo that, that unfortunately we have had in the past years people who are well-meaning and just didn't get it quite done at the second it needed to be done. And they are responsible people, and they are hardworking and long-time residents and taxpayers, and they were getting penalized. So this should go a long way, and thank you very much, Barb and administration, for coming up with these changes. I think it'll be great.
Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. Tailing onto that last point, I would add, of course, though, to my colleagues that if you give a mouse a cookie argument, let's be prepared for there still to be circumstances where people believe in their heart of hearts they have done what we've asked them to do, and still are being unfairly penalized. I think this is the furthest extent to which the logic could be extended, and I know I would not be interested in revisiting this in the remainder of our term, that if anyone cannot make their taxes paid under these new rules in the time frame allowed, that would be reasonable to be subject to penalty. But also, Barb, if I'm reading this right, I believe that you have imposed a series of incremental penalties as well. Is that right? Is it cumulative? Is it not?
No, nothing else has been changed.
So it's 5% on September 1 and not.
Correct. November.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, those have been in previous versions of this bylaw, all of those other points.
So, but someone who pays in September is paying significantly less penalty than someone who pays in February, both on a percentage basis and also on a time basis?
I'm sorry, my brain is not working. September, they get 5% penalty, November, 5% penalty, and then January it becomes an arrears, and every month thereafter, it's, I think, 0.75.
Right. So it is incremental, right? There's 5%, but and then an additional 5% in November, right? And that's what we were going for, right? I may not have changed, but at the same time, there was always an argument made in the past that someone who paid on September 2nd was being penalized in the same way as someone who dragged their feet all the way into the new year, and that's actually not been true for some time, and currently is not either, right? So these are incremental penalties. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor? Carried. Can I get a motion for third reading? Jay, Lisa, comments? All in favor? Carried. And I was brought up to me, and I'll just reiterate it again because they thought it was good clarification, but I just want the viewing audience to know that we don't just rush through these readings. We've done the homework through our committee of the whole meetings. There's been numerous discussions on this. And so when it comes here, that's when we just do our final reading. So I just want to read it to everybody that a lot of these have had a lot of homework on. All right, so where are we going off to next? We've still got time. I guess we will ask for a motion to go in camera because we got public hearing at 5:30. So I get a motion to go in camera, Lisa? Okay, I'm going to call the public hearing to order. So the purpose of the public hearing is to consider bylaw 03.19 being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 10.08 by redesignating Plan 3587HX Block 47A, Civic Address 703 2nd Avenue West, former Town Hall, from the CS Community Service District to R4 Residential District. Okay, Palliser, Jeff, could you supply your Regional Planning Services report?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, and other persons present this afternoon. My name is Jeff Loren. I'm the Senior Planner for Palliser Regional Municipal Services. And as the Mayor has read into the record, the purpose here this evening is for bylaw 03.19, which would be to rezone the subject property from Community Service District to Residential District R4. As part of the application, the applicant submitted several letters of support from neighbors in the area. I have not included them as part of your staff report because for FOIP reasons, the letters all had the names of the local residents in the area. And we have sent the application out to receive comment back from members of the public and surrounding area, and we have not received any other comments either for or against. Thus, Palliser is recommending approval of this application since we believe it would be appropriate for this zoning category or this area to be rezoned R4 as the surrounding area is generally residential in nature. And the purpose of this rezoning is to allow for the owner of the property to basically redevelop the existing old town hall into a multifamily residential use. However, I want to make it clear to council, if this is approved this afternoon, that the owner of the property may apply for a development permit for any type of either permitted or discretionary use within the R4 zoning category. Thus, not having received any concerns from residents or otherwise, and we believe that this is an appropriate zone for this area being residential in nature, Palliser is recommending approval of this rezoning by law 03.19, and I'd be available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Linda, have we had any written submissions received? No, no correspondence. Okay, is there anybody who would like to speak in favor or opposing in this matter?
I'm here representing Keith, the owner, but I don't need to speak in favor, but I'm here to take any questions if anybody has them.
Okay. Does council have any objections to speaking? No? All right, council, do you have any questions regarding Lisa?
So Jeff, you briefly mentioned there that it would be allowed to be used for anything that falls under R4 zone uses. Do you have that information available to tell us what those are?
Yes, I'd have to grab the land use bylaw here and go through it, but it's a fairly long list. There's a number of different uses. But generally speaking, I believe they're all appropriate for this area as it's a residential area already, and all the uses permitted or discretionary are consistent with a residential area. Of course, if they're discretionary in nature, they would have to go to MPC to get approved. Would you like me to get the land use bylaw
No, that's okay.
and go through that
That's
list?
what I wanted to hear was,
Okay.
yeah, that it fit.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure it was clear because I know the applicant has suggested that their intent is to have a multifamily building, but that is not necessarily the requirement after you get it rezoned to R4. Anybody who owns the property afterwards has the opportunity to request a development permit for any of the uses, either permitted or discretionary in the R4 zone.
Perfect, thank you.
Christine?
Thanks, Jeff. I may be completely wrong with this, but I have heard that that building does have heritage status. So does that affect anything when we're switching to R4 that way?
I was not aware of it having heritage status, to be honest with you. When it comes to rezoning, that will likely it's probably more appropriate to address that situation when it comes up for development permit, depending on what exactly they propose to do to the building. When a building has heritage status, often you cannot change certain aspects of that building. It's my understanding that this request for rezoning is going to be dependent on the sale of the property, I believe, is dependent on getting this rezoning and being able to do what they want to do with the property. Now, from a planner's perspective, I'm bringing forward the rezoning application. However, I might defer to their agent here as to what impact a heritage status may have on their desire for this building, because I'm not aware of what that might be.
So the heritage status, so essentially what happens is the province comes down and does a study. So in April 2014, they did a study of the elements of the building that are of historical significance. And so this is out of that report, which I can provide to both council and to Jeff. So they say the key elements are scale, form, and massing. I'm not sure what that means. It's probably, you'd know from an architecture standpoint, but yellow brick on the sandstone detailing, 1/1 double hung windows, the central sandstone clad entrance block, the gray metal coat of arms, which happens to be missing at the moment, the ganged windows above the front entrance, marble paneling, the painted wrought iron banisters, and the original light fixtures in the foyer, original wood paneling throughout, and terrazzo floorings, and the glass partition and the service counter on the main floor. So those are the items that can't be changed without the province approving it, and they're pretty basic and they're pretty integral to the building, so I don't see there being any issues there. Yep.
So where that comes in good, like kind of what Lise said there, basically they're gonna have to do a multifamily. There's not really much else you can do when you can't change those core structures, I don't think. So, yeah, perfect, thank you.
Agreed, yep.
Anybody else? Thank you, Bob, for that. No more questions? Okay, this public hearing is now closed. Okay, so I'm going to go to 9.1, and I'm going to ask for second reading on that bylaw. Jay?
Thank you, Your Worship. I move second reading of bylaw 03.19.
Seconder Christine, comments? Jay?
I'm very excited to see the potential reuse of this old building. I'm glad to see it changing hands. I mean, the province was the owner. I don't know who owns it right now, if that's true or not, but finding something else for that building to do, given that it is smack dab in the middle of a residential section, just makes sense. So I'm pleased to see anything moving forward.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor? Carried. Tom?
I would also like to make a motion for third reading of bylaw 03.19.
Jay?
Yeah.
Seconder? Tony? Comments?
So this would be a good example, Your Worship, of a situation where there were no objections brought from either in writing or in person, and nothing controversial that would have needed us to provide some additional time for reflection. So here, I think, is a good example of an opportunity where council's decided to pursue third reading in favor of expediting the process for the applicant.
Thank you for that clarification. So all in favor of third reading? Carried. Okay, so let's, could I get a motion to go back into camera to finish? Jay, Christine, all in favor? Carried.